not every day is great, and you're not
Right.
defined by your wins or your losses, right? You're defined by the character that you
Absolutely.
have. And that's really what I believe fitness is all about.
Yeah.
It's just a tool. It's a tool for us to build our character. Yeah, building biceps and six pack. Try to have that as a goal
Yeah.
and see how pot committed you are long term.
Right.
Right? It's
Right.
it's about who you're becoming, not how good you're starting to look or how
Mhm.
good you're starting to feel, even because
Right.
feelings are fleeting. Like you're
Right.
going to be happy one moment, and fitness doesn't make people happy. And I've been a trainer for a long time now,
Yeah.
and worked with thousands of people. And one common denominator is that people don't understand why they really want it,
Mhm.
right? And that I never knew why. It was
Yeah.
always like, hey, I want to come here because I want to be toned. I want to come to you because I want to be fit. I
Mhm.
want to come to you because I've got this wedding. I want to come. There was
Right.
these
Right.
goals that definitely, are meaningful to them, right?
Right.
Because they're willing to drive in and see me and pay for the membership and do all those things. But I'm like, is that really what you want?
Yeah.
Like, is that because if you have a bad day and that's your goal, then it's a real bad day.
It's a real bad day.
Right. And if you
Yeah.
have a real good day, it's a real good day. And your highs
Yeah.
are too high and your lows are too low
Mhm.
because you're chasing this arbitrary thing that you think defines you. But isn't it beyond that? And I would always kind of lean into him and I would be like, what's on your heart? Like, what
Yeah.
do you really want here?
Mhm.
And as soon as you get people to go like inward like that, they stop defining themselves by these arbitrary goals.
Right.
And they start defining themselves based on this vision, this enchanting future that they can be working toward, and then start to maybe enjoy the process a little bit more, even
Yeah.
though they don't feel good one day. Or,
Right.
feeling good or feeling bad is not going to predicate whether you or dictate whether you work out or not. It's
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
we work out, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
no matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were days that it gets so hard to wake up and be like, okay, here we go. Like, I got to go to practice. I got to go to the gym. I got to go to rehab. I got to do all these things. And it is like, you don't always want to do it,
Right.
Yeah. But
often we were talking a little bit of before this, and you were like, yeah, we often don't want to do it. It's almost never, there's like 10 to 15% of time where you're like intrinsically motivated, ready to go.
yeah.
But the other 85% of the time, I don't know about you, but like when I get to the gym and I'm in it and I'm working out, oh, I'm on fire.
That's
And
the
I'm
yeah.
right. But
Yeah.
getting there, I'm always like,
The
I've
getting
trained
there.
myself to like look for the excuses, but then not take that route. you know?
Right.
Like I got an out here or an out here. I could probably do this. I got a lot of work. That's always a
Yeah.
justification, but it's like, no, we do workout first.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in that discipline is where, at least for me, I'm anchored by. What would you say that your anchor in life is? Now that it's not volleyball, what is that anchor? What is that goal now that, you realized long ago you're not defined by points on a board?
I mean, I would say my anchor in life is my faith. That's kind of along my entire journey is what has helped me and kind of pushed me. I feel like God has put me on a path and given me, blessed me with a talent. And so that was also one of the things that, I wanted to do well in the sport and share my faith more than just being an amazing volleyball player. And that's something now that I think looking back on my career, I think I didn't always voice my faith as much as I think I would have liked to. So now moving on, like getting into boxing and personal training, I definitely want to share that more. It's a huge part of my life and I want to share that with people. And that is what has shaped me into who I am today and what has helped me post retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to go through, right? I've been through that whole curve of professional journey, have a goal. I wanted to be the Cy Young Award winner or else I wouldn't be playing baseball in the first place.
Right.
You make it to the minor leagues, realize there's levels to this game. I appreciate how far I've come. I have gratitude for the journey and the process and all the things that I've learned along the way. But this sport isn't who I am. It's what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Currently, right? And
exactly.
so now that you now that you have retired, and which I'm sure was difficult for you.
Mhm.
It was difficult for me because I thought I got fired basically. It's not
Oh,
retiring.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't hang them up by choice. I wanted to keep playing.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Hold on, you're not consistent enough
Okay.
over a 142 game season to go to the next level."
Well,
And I looked at the data and I'm like, fair.
fair point.
It's a good point. It's a good point. It's not great.
That's
But
hard.
yeah,
142
yeah,
games.
yeah. But then to retire, or not to retire, but to get fired rather, and say, "Hey, here's your plane ticket home." So many athletes like that, whether you get fired or you retire, there's this huge void
Mhm.
that sits in your heart that the sport had covered, that it
Right.
filled in a deep way. From an emotional standpoint, it does define you in a certain way temporarily.
Yeah.
I never let it become my personality, but it's all I did. It's all I cared about.
Right.
I didn't read a book. I wasn't an entrepreneur. Like I
Right.
set all
Right.
that stuff down. So, now that you're pursuing boxing, I want to talk about that a little bit because it's a
Mhm.
reset of a goal. It's almost, there's so many people out there listening that could be on their chapter 2 or their chapter 3 or their
Yeah.
chapter 4 or 5 or however, whatever.
Right.
And you get to make your own decisions that, like, whatever chapter that you want to write, the cliche says that you can write. It's not
Yeah.
written yet. So you're writing this new chapter with personal training and boxing and parlaying your athletic career to give that substance behind
Yeah.
it,
Yep.
and I understand how important that is in our industry,
Mhm.
right? Like, hey, I was a world-class volleyball player.
Right.
By the way, that was my resume, right?
Yeah.
And people trust you a little bit more when
Yeah.
that's the case.
Right.
So let's talk about that. How do you're to the point where you've decided on chapter 2.
Mhm.
Go through that process for people, because I'm sure at least 1 out of 4 people listening to this right now
Yeah.
are at that junction in their life, depending on where they are.
Right. So I was actually planning on retiring after 2020. My goal was to go win a gold medal in Tokyo and retire. I just and the reason I wanted to is because I wanted to go enjoy things with my family again, ride motorcycles with my dad and mom, and go skiing and do these things before they get too old that they can't do them with me anymore. And so after not qualifying, and then, because of COVID, everything got pushed back a year. So then it was a shorter window until the next Olympics. So I was like, okay, 3 more years. I can do it for 3 more years and then I can be done. So
Kelly's alongside you this whole time.
Kelly was alongside me for the 2020 run.
Got it.
And then I picked up, her and I split after our run ended. And then I picked up a young player, Megan Kraft.
Okay.
19-year-old, still in college. She was a sophomore at USC when her and I decided to play together, and phenomenal athlete, phenomenal beach volleyball player. So decided to pick her up and make a run for Paris. And I learned a lot in my partnership with Kelly. And then kind of after, not qualifying, I went through we didn't qualify. My uncle passed away. And then I had some personal things going on that were just,
That was a dark period for
it
you.
was a dark period.
Yeah.
Very dark period.
Mhm.
And so I went to therapy, and my therapist was incredible. And she was kind of the one that helped me work through everything and decide that I was going to make another run. Because if you would ask me initially, I was like, absolutely not. Because if I don't make it again, it will destroy me.
What did you talk about with your therapist that made you decide that, hey, I'm going to do this? What was the trigger?
It was knowing how close we were and knowing that I still had it in me. I was good enough and that it was possible. It wasn't this far out dream that was like, oh, let's see if we can do it. It's like, no, I'm literally right there. Like, I was an alternate for 2021. It's like, to be right there, I knew that I had it. So yeah, I decided, okay, I'm going to give it one more shot. And I was in a better place mentally and emotionally to be like, you know what? If I don't make it, I'm going to be okay, because I was okay the first time. And then, so Meg and I teamed up, and it was just, I learned communication way better. I learned leadership way better. Leadership isn't something that comes natural to me, so I really had to work on it, especially picking up such a young player. Um, so I just learned a lot in the last 3 years of my career, helping lead a team and just being able to communicate everything that I was feeling and thinking, because we tend to hold things in. We don't want to be so vulnerable. And it's like in those moments, even if you have a stomach ache or a sore throat, it's like I decided to tell my teammate that, because if there's anything she can do extra, then great, do it, because I'm not feeling well, And so my partnership with Megan was really about that. It's just kind of me even growing as a person individually and as a leader. And so that journey with her was just a little different than any other partnership that I had. And then her and I were always communicating, because she was in school and she was playing for the school team and traveling internationally with me. So it's like we were always checking in, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Like,
right.
This is what it takes.
Yeah.
And, we were on the road for 9 weeks straight at one point, and then 4 weeks, and there was just a lot. So checking in with her, and she knew right when we teamed up that I was going to retire after Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were always checking in with me, like, are you good? Are we still going? How are you feeling? So just having that open dialect was huge for us.
Yeah. And that partnership with Megan, where you started crafting your leadership skills, and it seems like Kelly had taken that role in the previous partnership, or you've learned leadership along the way from somebody else.
Kind of, Kelly and I were very similar, to where we were both just a little more laid back and we held in things more. I don't think either one of us ever really took that leadership role. And that was kind of the issue.
Okay.
Like there were times like one of us would step up, but it was like, we definitely needed more of a leadership. One or the other. It didn't really matter who, but we needed more of that in our partnership.
I think that's such a fair assessment of any team, right? No matter what team you're on, there's always got to be that leader that everyone else on the team says, hey, we can all be leaders, and we all are leaders, but when the times are the absolute toughest and we've got to make a decision, we've got to have trust in one person to be able to make that, because if you take any amount of people, 2 or more people, and the more people you start adding, and you're asking that group of people to make a decision, the more people you add, the more average the decisions become.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So I can feel you on that, and I definitely experienced that growing Burn, different divisions of our company that are made to support our franchise partners and our trainers and our members, and then we have our locations that all have teams that that need that lead trainer that or co-lead trainer. But if there's a co-lead trainer, then then you have 2 people that are making the decision, and they've got to decide like who the quote unquote tiebreaker is and things like that. And so there's just a lot of conversation and around leadership in this organization. And hopefully what we try to show our members is that when they look at a Burn Bootcamp team or a location or our HQ crew, that we are an example of how to put together a winning team, because each one of our members, they all have winning teams, right?
Yeah.
They all have teams they want to win. And that's the people that eat dinner with them every night, right? And have Thanksgiving with. And every family has a leader as well. So what did you learn about leadership specifically? What principles, what mantras do you live by now that you've gone through this relationship with Kelly, and how do you suggest people lead their own lives and the lives of their families?
Yeah. I think being decisive is a huge part of it. My sister and my dad used to always make fun of me because I'm the most indecisive person ever. I mean, simple things of, where do you want to go eat tonight? I don't care, you choose. And it's like, in those moments now, I will choose, just because that is how you start leading, right? Like, you make those decisions. So doing that, and then just knowing that it will fluctuate, like you were talking about, like, especially within a partnership with teammates, it's like, okay, I'm not doing well today. Like, you take on the leadership role, and those things fluctuate. But I think just being able to be decisive and knowing what you want.
I love that decisiveness.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
example that you gave too is good because how many families do you know that are like, where do you want to go to eat? I don't know. Where do you want to go to eat?
Yeah.
You know, and so Morgan and I's relationship is a really interesting one because she's the CEO of Burn, but she's also my wife, and I'm the visionary
Right.
of Burn, and I'm also her husband.
Right.
And and so there's this dynamic of kind of what hat are you wearing, and so we,
Yeah.
you know, we have a good relationship because she says, hey, you're the leader. She'll point at me and say, you're the leader,
Mhm.
and I'm smart enough to say, okay, when there's an important decision that needs to be made,
Mhm.
you're the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Right. If we are split on something, I'll lead. But I think the reason she trusts me to lead and set the example for the family, not that she doesn't lead by any means. She's a fantastic leader, but
Yeah.
you always have to have
Yeah.
that one person.
Absolutely.
And the trust is reciprocated when it's like, hey, if I want to go to, let's use a stupid example. If I want to go to Applebee's and you want to go to Chili's, we don't ever eat there anyway. But like, let's just say that's the example.
Yeah.
I trust you to make the ultimate decision unless you say, no, we're going to do what you said.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
no matter what, that's important. Right?
Absolutely.
To be decisive and
Be decisive.
even to choose who is that leader.
Yes.
We talked on the podcast about, I want to know your answer to this.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about if you're on a deserted island
Mm-hmm.
and you had to pick somebody to be the leader to get you off the island.
Off the island.
Right?
Okay.
Like to safety, right? You had to choose
Mhm.
one person to get you to safety. What are the characteristics of that person? What do you want to see out of them? How do you pick? You got 10 people here.
I know. That's tough. Because I feel like you need to pick somebody that can survive on the island, first of all, but then is also logical. Like, how to get off the island? Like, you have to be, you can't just be this like macho, like, yeah, I can survive, but it's like, okay, you can survive, but we're looking to get off.
Right.
So
Keyword we are. I'm always like, I'm looking for the optimist, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking for the optimist. I think that's a good leadership trait. Did you learn anything about that, about optimism in your role as a leader?
Yeah, I would say so. I think definitely. I mean, beach volleyball is such a wild sport. It's so different than a lot of other sports. So, I mean, we're, traveling across the world all the time, and we're in economy, and we're not the NBA and the NFL. We're not making millions. So it's like so many things can go wrong and so many bad things happen when you're on the road that it's like you can either get really pissed off or you can just be like, okay, glass half full, half empty,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
so yeah, I would say you have to be optimistic in those situations.